because you were born at noon. Is that true?
How did you know that?
I'm psychic.
I was born at noon. Yeah.
And then God turns to St. Peter and he goes, why are they all in the waiting room looking like this?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't put down their phone even on the other side. We're so addicted to that thing.
And the thing is, if it's all predicted, then there is a plan.
Of course there's a plan. It's sitting right here. Notice the human condition, said the therapist. We only learn when we're really miserable. This is what you all need to know. Hello. Mm-hmm. We are in a time where we're being tested.
How does astrology work in these different cultures?
It's crazy.
Tell me.
It stays the same. What I can confidently say is the transition between 2025 and 2027, as to your point, is very, very bumpy.
I'd like to welcome to the show Debra Silverman. How you doing, Debra?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for coming here. I appreciate you coming to Next Level Soul Studios and talking about all things astrology and a few things, other things. I'm assuming that we're going to be talking about as well.
I have a feeling this is going to be an unusual podcast.
That's always a good
feeling.
start. It's always a good start.
My first clue was who's on the walls.
Yes, we do have the masters on the wall. A few of many masters on the wall that we try to keep them close all the time, the ascended masters. So
I'm in good company.
Yes, we are. We are definitely in good company. So you know astrology. Now, I know a little bit about astrology. I've had a few other guests on the show. I've delved in a little bit into it, other than, the weekly paper kind of like thing, which is, I'm not sure how accurate those things are, or dating ourselves just saying by the weekly paper.
And magazines.
And magazines.
That was a past life.
But my understanding is there is a very technical, scientific aspect to astrology, which I was really kind of floored about. So can you explain to the audience what astrology is from your point of view and how it actually works?
So I am both a psychotherapist and an astrologer, so I have an unusual combo. I have a master's in clinical psychology. So my vantage point is slightly different. However, the science involved, it's pure astronomy. It's literally a snapshot, a picture of where were the planets at the moment of your birth, as though the astronomer went outside, took a photograph, figured out from where the moment of your birth, where you were actually born. They take a photo of the sky, and that gives us the information as an astrologer. It's completely abstract. I mean, the science part's accurate. There's no question about that. It's hard math. It's a lot of math. But the interpretation is where the art begins. And there's a million different astrologers' interpretations, and my specialty is speaking English. Because when people start speaking astrology, they do jargon a lot.
Sure.
And I tend to not do that, and I teach in my school, don't do the jargon because you're talking to yourself. Right. So just right to start with.
By the way, you have a piece of paper in front of you, and that apparently is my chart?
Yes, I have your chart right in front of me. And just to start with, what stands out immediately, this only happens once a year. So the sun moves 1 degree around the sky every single day. So we know that today the sun's in Libra, and then the next month the sun will be in Scorpio, and it's as consistent as the sun coming up every morning. But Saturn stays in one spot for 2 years. So imagine on the day that you were born, here's the sun moving around the sky. The day you were born, they were standing right next to each other. So you were born with Saturn conjunct the sun, which tells me immediately you can't do anything halfway. You're extreme. You're a workaholic. You have ambition that doesn't stop, and you have more discipline and more commitment than most people. So it's annoying when other people aren't so you just run the whole show yourself to make sure that it gets done the way you want it to, because you're so deliberate.
Yeah.
And Virgo rising to compound that. So you've got Saturn. Think of that. One planet conjunct the sun, outer planet, colors the whole theme of your life. And it's about discipline. You're old when you were young. You'll be young when you're old. You came in with an old soul mentality. And the older you're going to get, the lighter life will get. That's a good thing. So you don't have to feel like the burden of your childhood was then. And that you have a really solid work ethic. Way more than most people. And it's very confusing to people like you why somebody would be late, why they wouldn't follow through, why they wouldn't pay with their... You're like, don't they have the instructions? Because I come from Saturn. So that's one of the most outstanding. I immediately saw that and thought, I'm going to like him because I have it too. Like a really serious commitment. Not fake, not pretending.
Yeah.
How'd I do so far?
Well, we put out 3 episodes a week. So
and for how many years?
Well, I've been doing that for almost a decade.
And that's what Saturn's like. It's very consistent and very thorough. And people get it can be hard for the person that has it because they don't know how to have fun. because they work all the time. But for the people that have it, that love to work because it gives them great joy to be of service, they're like, what's the problem? Why can't we just stay focused and stay on task and fulfill God's mission? Why are we doing anything else? So I happen to love this energy, but it's not always easy for people around because your standards are so high.
Yes, well, that's without question, without question.
That was just off the top. I just had to say it as soon as I saw it.
Okay, fair enough. And apparently you said we're going to be kind of dipping in and out of my chart throughout the whole.
I'm going to spice our session with a little astrology wisdom.
All right, so that's fine. So for people listening, so explaining, so it's a snapshot of where you were when you were born. So how does it work of like, okay, so now I'm 32 years old. I'm not, but now I'm 32 years old in May. How can you kind of predict what's happening in my life? How can you create this blueprint throughout your life just by I was born in Saturn and the sun and
exactly.
Uranus is connected. I don't know, whatever
right,
it is.
It is in your chart. It's very strong. Good guess. That's one of your funny traits. You have like intuitive knowings without even knowing how you know it. It's right, isn't it? Every once in a while you're just like, where did I get that from?
Oh yeah.
Pulled it out of air. You're asking about transits and how the sky influences it.
Correct.
So this is a photo. I always wish people had tattooed on their head their chart, and then I could see it because it's the blueprint or the storyline of the lifetime. But where the planets are in the sky as it continues to move. And for one example is Saturn return. Have you heard of that? Mm-hmm. You have?
I have heard of it.
So for you, that would have been 2003.
Okay.
So what happened?
In 2003?
2003, 2004. You were just turning 30.
I wasn't 30 yet. No, I was in the 20s. I was 20s.
Oh.
I was still in my 20s in 2003.
Okay, sorry. So we have to add 30. So
I was born in 74.
That's right. Okay, so 2000 and what would it be? 2005? Yes. 2004, 2005. How did I miss that? 2930, yes.
Yeah, so that's around that time.
Okay, then what happened? How did I get that's embarrassing. Take that out. That was not good.
We're human. It's fine.
I'm human.
So in 2005 is when I made my first film, my first official film, and that's when that kind of actually launched my career.
Exactly.
Yeah, I launched my career.
So it's called a destiny line. So between 29 and 30, the energies start to build up to bring destiny to us. And it's everybody you meet will say, that was the year I started my career. That was the year I got married. That was the year I got divorced. That was the year I had a baby.
It's always 30?
It's 29 to 30.
Okay.
It's in that window. For some people, it starts a little earlier, but it finishes by 30. And you have to get an astrology reading to get the actual dates because it's different for everyone. But it's definitely in that window. And it happens again at 58, 59, 60. So there's a second Saturn return, which is what I've been through because I'm older than I look. So part of that story is when Saturn comes to return to you, and especially for you, it's a destiny planet. Back to what I said originally, it gives discipline and focus and purpose. And that moment in time, when it comes back to where it was when you were born, it's like, okay, remember what you agreed to do? And you're like, make films? And they're like, we're going to show you how. And then the red carpet goes out for some people. It just becomes like a downhill motion. No free will. You're driving yourself towards destiny. For some people, it's very difficult. If they've been distracted or they haven't been on their path, that Saturn return thing comes, and then it's like, Saturn's not very nice. It can be, you know all about Saturn. He lives on you. It's not that it's not nice. He's very determined to get you to get to your life mission. He sent you here with a purpose. And if you don't fulfill your purpose, you're going to go, it's the high school principal. You're going to go in the office and he's going to go, what are you doing, Alex? And you're like,
when you say he, you're talking about
I think of
the
Saturn
energy
as a man. That's probably not true. But Saturn is an energetic. That's the high school principal that says to you, excuse me, what are you doing? And if you don't answer by 28, 29, 30, if you don't have a mission or you're not willing to say yes when they call your name, it doesn't go well. Mm-hmm. So it's a destiny line. It's my favorite planet.
It's really interesting because things usually change for me at the turn of every decade. So 29 to 30, 39 to 40, and now 49 to 50, which is where I am at right now, has been a massive. Every decade there seems to be a huge shift.
Yes, I would challenge you and say it's every 7 years. If you recognize, if I could play with your chart, Saturn moves in 7-year cycles. So at 7 years old, you're born with Saturn here. At 7 years old, it's 90 degrees to it. At 14 years old, it goes opposite it. At 21, it goes 90 degrees. And at 28 to 30, it returns. Then every 7-year increments, it continues. Now, 10-year cycles are also significant, and there's definitely a clue you're on the right street.
There's something
that's what you've noticed. And good for you for noticing.
I've noticed like every decade there's something that happens around this time period. So like I just turned 50, so during this.
Well, that was 7 sets of 7. 49 years old is a turning point.
Right. So that basically where I'm at is 49, 50, and that's when this show took off and exploded. It was around that time period.
That's so interesting.
It's really interesting. And at 40, 39 to 40, is when I made my first feature film, and then I also launched my podcast. I love that you recognize patterns. That's what astrology is,
and numerology. And this whole system of magical language that I'm so in love with, it does represent itself through numbers and being able to be aware of it, which is what my book is about and my new book is about, turning on the observer. Becoming aware of watching yourself from a distance is the highest state. And that's what astrology is. You're off the planet. You're looking down at the person's chart trying to ask the question, so what did they come for? What's their purpose? What would be a reason someone would incarnate? This planet is so strange. Have you noticed?
Very much so.
And it's so covered with both pleasure and beauty and pain and suffering. So to come down here, they give you a little secret blueprint, but it's done in hieroglyphics. It's hard to translate.
We are in a time of great change, and humanity is awakening more and more every day. Mankind needs insights on what is happening to all of us. That is why I'm inviting you to Wisdom from Beyond, a 6-day virtual summit designed to awaken your soul. Experience over 9 hours of soul-expanding channeling sessions led by 6 of the world's most esteemed channelers. Connect with the divine, receive sacred insights, and transform your journey by asking questions directly to the channelers themselves. This is more than just a summit. It is your gateway to understanding the profound shifts happening within and around all of us. Plus, when you sign up, you receive exclusive bonus content to deepen your spiritual exploration. Join us and step into the extraordinary.
So what does an astrologer do? He looks at the chart and goes, let me remind you of what you agreed. So you agreed to be a really hard worker. And in exchange for that, as you get older, there's more and more return. And Jupiter's been on your midheaven, now I'm talking jargon. In the last year, 2024 for you has been a very big expansive for your career. This whole year has been, it continues to be through the next year, through the early part of 2025. Life is giving you a reward system. And that's the stars. I don't know, I wish I understood. It leaves me kind of, I don't know if the word's mystified or a little frustrated, because I want to get an home office to give me the download. Like, why does it work? Why can I look at a chart every single time and describe a character? This person's a strong, ethical man, and it's in Cancer, and he really cares about his family, and he's Virgo rising, so he's a perfectionist. How would I know that when I just sat down?
Right.
Isn't that peculiar?
It is fairly peculiar. So how does this differ from that magazine, weekly newspaper articles? Like today, your Mercury's in retrograde, and you should not
go out of the house.
Yeah,
no, that is so. They've asked me for years. I will never do that. I don't disrespect that people can make up stories. I call it MSU, making. I'm not good at it. I mean, I am good at it, but I call myself out.
Yeah.
So those magazines in the back of it's very superficial. When you actually sit down with the trained astrologer, and I have trained astrologers, I have 22 on my site that I've put through a rigorous training. They can look at this and say specifically, here's your karma, here's the timing, here's your purpose, and that's a trained. But those magazines, it's a generic kind of fun. But isn't it interesting that everybody reads them?
Well, yeah, because everybody wants to know.
But why has astrology passed the test of time? Like your grandmother knew what sign she was.
So
how much you want to bet?
So that's the thing, is that, and this is something that I've recognized from doing this show, and then also just throughout my life, I've noticed this, is that even if nobody believes that this psychic thing is BS or this astrology thing is pseudo-science at best or all this kind of stuff, but when the doors close, they'll go,
I know. It happens to me everywhere I go.
Exactly.
I'm a Taurus. Tell me about me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't believe in it.
I don't believe in it, but let me, am I going to get that job? When am I going to find my true love? Everybody
100%.
Everybody wants to believe.
And we do believe in magic. I mean, the truth is this whole business you have, this whole podcast is reminding us that there's these alternate worlds and not to be so close-minded.
Correct.
And it's a new movement that's going across the whole planet. I mean, Pluto's entering Aquarius, another jargon term, once every 240 years in November 2025, and it describes the entrance of us believing in alternate worlds and not being stuck in the old structure. there's a whole new world that's entered. And we can feel, you're part of it. I'm part of it. Mm-hmm. And so it is an old story that we didn't believe, but secretly we did. Mm-hmm. It's a funny game. Like, we all know that dreams are real and that magic is real and that we fall in love and that these magical things happen in our dream states and our visions, and we get intuitions, and there's magic mushrooms and there's magic energies and there's...
But the thing is, that what you call magic, and a lot of times it could be science. It literally could be like, if I go to a tribe somewhere and I open up my iPhone and show them a picture of themselves that I just took, they'd be like, oh my, you're a magician. So it is really points of view on what magic is and what magic is. And
completely.
I studying spirituality as long as I have, and continuously having these amazing conversations, has broadened my horizons as far as what I understand to be true or not true. I've seen too much. Within my own personal journey, I've seen too much. And then experiencing through others, I've felt too much, I've seen too much. So I know none of the stuff that I'm talking about and having on the show is BS. And people can sense that when they hear me talking. I'm like, I'm not a charlatan going, The second we're off, like, whoosh, that BS astrology thing, I think we're going to get a lot of clicks out of that. No, you can't fake that. I'm not definitely not good enough of an actor to do that. But I've just seen the magic, and throughout my life, I've seen it to the point where, like, I was about to go bankrupt in my 20s, and because for many other reasons, I went down the dark path of my own stuff that I had to deal with, and I yelled out to the universe, and I said, "All right, God, I'm going to sign these papers to file for bankruptcy unless you get me a job. I will pay this, and I will do what's right, and I will work my ass off, but I need you to help me. If not, I'm going to protect myself, and I'm going to sign these papers." And the next day I get a phone call from my first boss saying, "Hey, there's somebody looking for an editor up north." And a year later, I was out of debt because I busted. And then I got a second job, and they're like, "Oh, you want work? We're going to get you work." And I just grinded.
See, it's what I described. Your early life was difficult. Saturn on the sun.
Very.
But then the lessons came in, and then it humbled you. Saturn rules humility. Yes. That's how we get humbled through the most. So for anyone watching this, for people that are in a really stressful moment where life is screaming at them and they're on the wrong street, so to speak, because that wasn't the wrong street.
No, I was on the right street, but it was my street.
That's right.
It was the street I had to be on.
That's very your style. You don't follow well. I mean, you have a very unique style.
Oh, I do not like, no.
No, because Uranus. That's so funny you said it. It's sitting on your moon. So remember I said Saturn was on your sun once a year? It happens for a few days? Yeah. Well, once a month for a few hours, Uranus was standing on the moon. It's so funny. They were holding hands, which Uranus cannot follow. It was founded in the French Revolution, 1780, when we came across from England, and everyone said, forget about following the rules, and they threw the tea off, and they said, we're not paying the queen, we're starting a whole new society. That's Uranus, and it's sitting on, you're like, I am not following, I'm so sorry. And that's what you're doing for all of us. You're breaking the mold of the mind, particularly around science. It's in Libra. Like, you're inviting us to consider opening our mind. And I just want to say in our podcast, which I know we've got plenty of time, I don't want to just talk about astrology because I do so much and I am in love with it. But the more interesting topics are how you and I got to the point where we've been so humbled to open up to these masters and include them in our awareness.
Absolutely.
So that our human experience is not limited to just the being normal.
I agree with you 100%. I will definitely, let's go down that road before, because I don't want to leave astrology just yet,
no,
but
exactly.
we have plenty of time. Trust me.
That's right. Thank you.
One thing I'm curious about is, when did astrology start? How far back in our history?
It's 4,000 years old. See, this is what I meant when I said to you, why is everybody reading the magazines? Why did our grandmothers know? Because it's never left our awareness. It was put in place. This is the secret. I'm putting this on camera. It's such a high intelligence and it's so impeccable that I can look at every single person's chart, as can my astrologers, and assess without ever knowing someone, because it's been put in place by a very high intelligence. And so while we can't call it ETs, I don't know what to say because I don't have concrete answers.
The universe.
The universe. It's cool. We're going to talk about that. High levels of masters put in place an architecture so that as a therapist, healer, human, I could look into your psyche and have compassion for, oh, Alex, you're so serious sometimes. You get so devoted to what you're doing. And then you go, yeah. And I go, well, that's probably because you promised. You promised this life that you would give us this gift. And then it comforts the person because they're like, I always wondered what I was doing here. I mean, that is essentially the deepest question and wound in the human psyche is from time immemorial, what am I doing here? Who am I?
Yeah,
How do I fulfill my purpose for those that created me? And who started this movie? Like, how did this even happen? How did they put in place an ancient template that is perfectly designed to answer the question of every single person's chart? And it works every time across 4,000 years. And yet, so many people go, I don't believe in astrology.
Well, a lot of people didn't believe that the Earth rotated around the sun either. So there's that.
That's so true. We are evolving creatures.
We are evolving creatures. And at a certain point, this will be so rudimentary that everyone will be like,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Of
like,
course.
Well, a lot of these concepts of like, a lot of the things I talk about on the show were taboo. I mean, you were burned at the stake, let's say.
Totally.
For, being a psychic, being a channel, talking about this kind of stuff. This is witchcraft. This is the devil's work, obviously.
I know.
But I've just seen it. That
The evolution.
People are much more awakened. People are more curious. And people are more open to these ideas where my parents' generation wasn't, and my grandparents.
Totally.
They did it, but they were quiet in the corner.
Secrets.
Very secret. Like if you were psychic, if you had psychic abilities, it was just like.
For the last 2,100 years, it was called the Piscean Age. And in the Piscean Age, Christ arrived. It was the very entrance. And his message was so beautiful, turn your other cheek, love everyone.
Right.
But it also came with severe religion. Like you have to follow these rules. Same thing with Judaism. You have to stay inside this box. And it went on until the 1960s when the Aquarian Age began. We were like, no, I'm throwing this away. I'm taking these drugs. I'm not getting married. I'm getting, like the whole thing threw itself into a wild, which is where we're at now. We're entering another 2,100 years with Pluto entering Aquarius of a new era. And what does that mean? It means that everything that worked before doesn't work now.
Well, we see it though. We see that happening in the world right now. Things are crumbling around us.
I know.
Institutions.
Look at the world. At the environment, at the money, at the government, at the
religion,
at the education, at the health. I know this is not a bad thing. Announcement. This was predicted. The seers knew this was going to happen. We were going to reach a pitch where we could no longer sustain a society that was based on taking, consuming, and hurting. So the good news is we're changing. The bad news is this is really uncomfortable. I mean, we don't have a mental construct. My new book, Get Ready, is called I Don't Believe in Astrology, because there's so many people that don't believe in it. And that, I know, it's funny. And I'm trying to introduce, like, you can consider there's an ancient science that knew this was coming. We knew the transition from one era to another would be arriving, and it would be uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, if you didn't understand, which is why you're here.
So like the Mayan calendar, I remember the 2012 thing.
With the Mayan calendar.
The 2012 thing that the world's coming to an end in 2012. But as we know, the Mayans were expert astronomers, expert in the stars. So at the end of that calendar, it wasn't the end of the world, it was the end of an age.
Ding, ding, ding.
And then a beginning of a new age. And I don't know about anyone listening, but in 2012 since, things have been a little rockier.
100%.
Been a little bit rockier than they were before. I mean, I've been around the planet for a while now. I remember the 70s, I remember the 80s, I remember the 90s, even the early 2000s. And the world changed. There was obviously some rockiness. The 80s were interesting, to say the least, but nothing.
It's so
compared
radical.
To, like, basically from 2012 on. I mean, 2020, this decade it has been the most insane decade of my life.
And why does it make me smile? It's not nice, but some part of me is so excited about the dismantling and the breakdown and the openness to considering that there's bigger intelligences, welcome to our friends, who are facilitating this change and that nothing's wrong. What a radical new thought process. But it's dependent on how scared we get. And notice the human condition, said the therapist. We only learn when we're really miserable. We only get change when we hit rock bottom. We only really come to our knees when we're going bankrupt and we scream out to God. Why is it we need to have crisis to wake us up?
Well, because there's this zone that is called the meh zone. And that meh zone...
You don't know much about Mr. Saturn.
So the meh zone, I just created that by myself. The meh zone is like, things aren't great, but they're not too bad. I can deal. you need to get to the point where it's unbearable for you to change. And that is just a human condition a lot of times.
That's the first chapter in my book.
It's just a human condition.
It's very sad because we're reaching that pitch. And I said this many years ago, 2024 was going to be the last year of going blah, 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 like la, 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 like, oh, climate change. Oh, there's this big political situation. Oh, we have so much diversity, we don't get along. And 2025, when Saturn enters Aries and then going forward, we're going to start seeing the real bottom note. So now we're awakened. But why so for those of you watching, here's what you do to prepare. You wake up before the alarm clock. You give yourself, that's what I do, and you do it too. Mm-hmm. I pray, don't hurt me. Let me learn my lessons gently. But I do it because I'm so committed to this change. That's the first thing that has to happen. Admit that we are in a transition. I mean, it's so loud. I don't know why it's debatable.
I mean, it's not even debatable. I mean, what do you mean? Of course, everything is. I always use the example of like the Catholic Church was you couldn't even move it. It was the Rock of Gibraltar. It was nothing. It could do no wrong. And now the cracks are everywhere. Same thing for the economy. Same thing for the healthcare system. Same thing for the education system. Same thing for our politics. Same thing for our food. Everything.
I know. It's
all the
so
lies
amazing.
and all the stories that all of those industries around the world have been feeding us. We used to be like, duh, 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 duh. And now we're like, no.
And now we're choosing our food, and we're choosing our water, and we're choosing our relationships, and we're choosing if you're awake. So what your whole podcast does, it wakes us up.
I try.
But no, it's working. Like, oh, there's other people to believe in that have alternate worlds. Oh, there's people that can see behind the veil. Oh, there's astrologers that can determine the divine nature, the compassion of the human. Oh, there's ways to operate that are kind. And it's real.
Right, and I love that word kind. Is
so
something
does the Dalai Lama.
It's the kind is the thing that is missing. You know, why can't we be human first? Not color, not sex, not anything else. Human first. Everything else could be falling away, but to be human with each other, to be
Did
kind.
you know that Dalai Lama is a Cancer with Virgo rising?
Stop it.
The same as you, and his whole religion is kindness.
I look forward to having him on the show one day.
And his message is not necessarily with words, because all you have to do is think about him. Mm-hmm. He's a meditator, and he's carrying the legacy and the ancient wisdom from the masters, and that's the interface that you're bringing us. That people feel like, as a human, we're so awkward. I wanted to name my new book, You're Up and I Still Like You, but they wouldn't let me use it. But it's true. It's just the nature of the beast. Every single person listening to this has some quirky part of their character that's a little embarrassing. They don't want to tell anyone. And it's endearing when it's seen through the eyes of the soul. Like, you're so cute. I mean, listen, I have quirks. I can't tell you the quirks. When I walked in today, we couldn't even find this place. I'm like, when the human nature dimension kicks in and you're feeling nervous and all that stuff, human as you describe it, and then there's a soul watching us. This is all my life's work. Take a breath, smile, and realize we're so cute. We're so goofy. We're so funny.
It's kind of like the player playing a video game, and then we're the video character, and we're looking at them down there going, oh, look how adorable. Like, oh, just run into that wall. Or, oh, there's all the monsters in the corner. And they're the observer. But we're taking it extremely seriously.
Oh, no.
Because you have to.
Yeah.
We have to take it seriously.
It's so compelling. It's so...
I mean, if we didn't take this seriously, then there's no point in this. You know, you have to take the simulation seriously.
Well, that's the operating system. It can change. There's an operating system we're all locked down on, and that's what this new book is about. That your mind has a real default of design faults, like I can't forgive easily.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how to
programming.
I don't know how to end things. Mm-hmm. And I'm insecure and I don't tell anybody. And I feel like these internal dialogues have captured me based on my chart, like an emotional one for you with Cancer, being Saturn's in Cancer. You're so sensitive, it's slightly embarrassing. Like everything affects you. So that becomes your secret. Everyone's got one. You can look at everyone's chart and I can go, sorry for saying that out loud. But you're a mush. Mm-hmm. I mean,
but you could tell that by just watching me and talking to me.
I could tell that, but it really got echoed with 3 planets in Cancer, Jupiter in Pisces. You're a sensitive.
Oh, very.
So, but that's everyone has a little access through their chart of being quirky. I love that word, quirky. And then my job is to create the compassion, because when we move into this transition, which is about to happen, just take off your seatbelt. We're moving very quickly now from 2026 to 2028. When Saturn enters Aries, the energy starts building, and all the outer planets move into fire and air, and it's very explosive. It's not like now. We've been in la-la land. We hear about the climate change. We hear about AI. We hear about all the negativity that's going on in our communities, and we watch it on television as a distant experience. But when you have a hurricane hit your own house,
Oh, yeah.
When you start hearing about your children not wanting to have children, when you start seeing the depression and the addiction that's occurring because the kids don't like it here, that's when it becomes our job to go, let's speak to the unspeakable. Let's talk about the things we don't talk. Why? Because I've learned about my system. I'm strong enough to be a mom or a healer or a helper or a wisdom keeper. And from that place, I can help this because we are going into a transition.
So when you're looking at at this blueprint of our lives, let's say, there is the free will in the sense that I always say that when we create our soul blueprint on the other side, there's mile markers of things that we want to achieve in this life. How we get to those mile markers is truly up to us, and we can go off road, and that's when a near-death experience sometimes happens.
I love those.
Yeah,
and I've had one. We're going to talk about it.
Oh, fantastic! I didn't know that. We'll find out about that. So we go off, but that's when you're saying like at these
critical moments,
these critical turning points where let's say Saturn is going, hey,
yes,
hey, where. Oh, you're supposed to be an astronaut. Why are you working at this dead-end job? Because you're afraid of this or some programming? Well, now I'm going to have to and push you. And that we've all felt that.
And it's happened to you.
Of course it has. It's happened to all of us.
Right.
You know.
If you're willing. So back to your point, the free will button. The free will button's in place once you wake up. Why are we watching this podcast? Because you, the whole room, everybody listening, we're desperate to wake up. Let me be awakened. Let me be an echo chamber of the ones that came before me, who showed me the way. If I'm humble enough and innocent enough to say, listen, I know I'm fucked up. I mean, it's funny to say it that way, but I know my human has a neediness, or I'm a pleaser, or I'm indecisive, or I'm bossy. We've got a million funny personality traits that I can point at. But the real question is, how willing am I to echo and take the high road and really be an example for our children that will make it through this transition because we're awake?
So this transition, and this is something we've spoken about ad nauseum on the show, because ad nauseum, because it's something that people are afraid.
Why do I love that? I love that your show has spoken ad nauseum to a topic that no one wants to address.
Yeah, because that's all I do is I talk about this because so many people are afraid of what's happening. They think that the world's coming to an end. And I'm trying to tell everybody, and through my guests that come on, from psychics to channels to mystics, yogis, whoever, they say, I use this analogy. I'm like, look, if you look at a woman giving birth.
This is my favorite line. I use this all day long. We're echoing each other.
So you see a woman giving birth.
And you've never seen it before.
Right. And you've never seen it. You have no idea what's happening. You think this woman is about to die.
And you're going to cut the thing off, and you're going to interrupt, and you're going to make the whole thing wrong, and you're sitting in the other room crying.
Right.
Hello? How many people are sitting in the other room crying?
Correct. Because you're seeing this very violent, sometimes.
Loud.
Yeah, loud, painful experience, which it doesn't have to be, but let's say for the example it is, then you're like, what's going to happen? You don't know that there's birthing happening. There's a baby coming. There's a life being born into it. And the second that baby is born, what happens?
I can't believe you just used that analogy. I was born in the 50s, so I'm way older than you.
Okay.
And all this time I've said the same thing over and over and over again. If you are the wisdom keeper in the room, if you're the midwife, if you've been listening to this podcast, if you've been listening to Waking Up in any whatever version, then you sit in the room and you're the one that says, everyone sit down.
Relax. It's going to
Take
be
a breath.
okay.
Do you not trust these people? Are you silly enough to think that we're not being watched? Do you think for 1 minute that this is not an organized event by a higher intelligence, which is one of the visions that came to me, that I'm on a council? I didn't look like them, but I definitely had the vision, and I've seen it clear as day, that there's an interfacing between the higher intelligence, which is Dwal Kul, by the way. There's a hierarchy of beings that are watching us. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, our little operating system keeps bumping into these thoughts like something's wrong, something beep, beep, something, reject, leave the scene of the crime. No, sit down. Take a breath, listen to this podcast, and remember, there's no mistakes.
But the thing is this, and I love that analogy of the operating system, is I use the analogy all the time of our operating system, our brain, is that 5-inch floppy from the 60s.
I agree.
It has like a 2K system, and you can barely do anything on it, and that's our brain. While the universe is a quantum computer, for this analogy, and has infinite amount of processing power, and then you connect to the cloud, and you're now connected to all known knowledge.
I love that.
So the problem is when people are afraid, they're stuck in the floppy. They have not quieted their minds enough to connect to the cloud, which is connected to the quantum computer, which allows you to do infinite things. and you will have an infinite understanding of what is happening.
I love this so much.
On the other side, what is happening through all of us. And again, my perspective is so unique because of the amazing opportunities that I get to speak to people like you on a daily, literally a daily basis.
What a job you have.
I get to ask any question of any person ever I want. I've just like, so the meaning of life. All souls are happening at once. Like I ask anything. It's so wonderful. And then everyone gets to watch these conversations, which are normally in like a coffee shop somewhere, but now I'm recording them and everyone gets to hear it. So from that point of view, I have a clear understanding of what's happening. I have a clear understanding of what's going to happen. I don't know details, but I know events are happening, energies are shifting, and we could all see it. It's not like woo-woo.
No, but the problem is, and this is your mastery, is water. And this is in my book. The emotional body, as he picks up a glass of water, that was perfect timing. Mm-hmm. The emotional body on this planet is toxic. Mm-hmm. The first element, the first ecosystem to break will be the coral is now gone in the oceans.
It's starting to go,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gone in Hawaii where I live.
Wow.
So it's a really desperate situation. And what does water represent? But the emotional capacity to be still, you named it, to be still in the middle of a crisis. On our system, what we learned in school and how we operate, when we're emotional and we're sensitive and we're vulnerable and we're scared and we're lonely, no one talks about it. It's a secret world. And water has become the toxic element because we're too embarrassed to admit. And I still like you. It's okay to admit it. And one of my disarming charms that I create with my work is I make it okay to say to someone, you really do have a problem. Mm-hmm. You don't really have a problem. But you have, just so you know, you're going to be surprised to hear this, you have no earth in your chart, as in 0. So earth is the element of money and numbers and practicality and organization and time. Why is that funny?
Because all of that stuff is the stuff I don't do.
Exactly. Okay, nailed him. Oh, we're having one of those moments, one of those aha moments right here, right now. You have no earth in your chart.
Yeah.
So you have to, I'm sure your wife has grounded you.
Very much
yes.
so.
So we always bring in a person to bring us that grounded quality. And when I look at a chart, this is the missing element. Look at the name of the book. You're missing earth. So if the human dimension has permission to admit that, yeah, I'm not that good at that. I really can't do that stuff. I need to find someone to help me. The minute you're open to letting there be help or praying or forgiving yourself or understanding it, then you become whole. Because the goal of the game is to have all 4 elements. That's what my book is about, water, air, earth, and fire. If one is down, that's why you went bankrupt. Until you learn how to ground yourself and be systematic. Correct. And truly in service. Mm-hmm. Like your gift, I see this in you. Because guess what? I just got a new tattoo. Mm-hmm. It's an owl. Because everybody says to me, who am I? And I'm going to tell you, one of your gifts is you see through the illusion here. You came this way. Mm-hmm. You have a really profound gift to be on mission and to stay true to your truth. But there's a lot of people that don't know their mission.
Well, most people.
And then their emotional body implodes because they start to feel insecure and they feel anxious and they feel wrong. And the water element is the single element that's preventing us from being the wisdom keepers, from being able to sit in the room while she's giving birth. The wisdom of water is, shh, I got you. That's why we have dogs and cats. They're like the most comforting little beings and the little
amazing.
people.
Yeah.
And this is why water, is the nonverbal element, is where we soothe our nervous system. But if you don't know how to do that,
oh, you'll go crazy.
Because you pick up your instrument, what's that called? This funny little toy that everyone carries. Want to hear my new joke? When we get to the pearly gates, God's standing next to St. Peter, and there's a big waiting room. Mm-hmm. And then God turns to St. Peter and he goes, why are they all in the waiting room looking like this? Mm-hmm. They couldn't put down their phone even on the other side. We're so addicted to that thing. And that's what prevents the stillness. So if the water element, being quiet, meditating, listening to music, cuddling with your kids, being in your house with your slippers on and feeling really comforted, putting on incense, putting on candles, having all the woo-woo stuff, listening to podcasts that soothe you. This is really the practice of us learning how to calm down our nervous system, and that's the highest road of water. And you live that. Yeah. Like that's what you live with masters. When you start echoing, see, you're an empath. That's what water people are. They feel people. But look who you sit next to. So you're vibing with, you're including in your circle every day. It's so funny. The people that have done the spiritual work to get to a calm. And that's what the planet's missing. If there's one initiation on this planet that's really handicapping us, is our emotional body, the water element, our ability to trust, to breathe deep, to relax, to really have faith that she's going to give birth to something. Nothing's wrong. There's so much in the energy field. We get so strung out.
Well, also, I mean, the way the way the media is, the way Hollywood is, the way all of this stuff is happening,
Totally.
is this energy. But you can see. I mean, look, I've been in the Hollywood, in the film industry for 30 years, so I've seen it in its heyday, and I think the heyday was 80s and 90s essentially, as far as like where that's 70s, 80s, and 90s. Please, there's great times in the 60s and 50s. I get it, but for me, the 70s were an amazing time for film. 80s was the blockbuster. 90s took that on.
So interesting.
But then after you can just start seeing people are now rejecting the agendas. They're rejecting this canned storytelling. They don't, and you can see that all the companies, they're all slowly going down. They're all crumbling. The news networks are scrambling, and all they're doing is ramping up the rhetoric, ramping up the anger, and the fear, because they're desperate, because they're truly desperate. And when a podcast like mine gets higher ratings than a show on a news network, there's something wrong. There's
something right.
There's something right. Something is shifting.
Yes, something's changing. In a big way, and all of us know it. And that's such a beautiful description.
But that
is the dream. The dream of what came through movies in the old story of the illusionary world has been crashed because it didn't fulfill what we thought it would be.
There's no Star Wars anymore.
Right.
There's no movies. Indiana Jones. There's no that event.
The heroes.
Those kind of movies don't play anymore. The same, like the new ones are being made. You have to go back to the Futures and watch those kind of perfect films, or the Goonies, or things, or the Godfather,
so
even, or something like that. Going back to those movies, and those things don't exist.
Yes.
They don't exist anymore.
But this is the Aquarian age. So we're in this time where we're breaking down the old system, and we're introducing a new value system, which is what you're doing in so many podcasts, of opening up our minds to another reality and then making us responsible. But if the emotional body is suffering for missing the old story and thinking something's wrong because we're letting go and wondering this is a big echo chamber. Something's wrong. That's what lives inside. That's what anxiety is. I'm walking into a party and I feel really nervous. I feel like I'm really insecure. Something's wrong. They're not going to know who I really am, and I don't really know who I am, and I'm feeling the anxiety people suffer from, and the depression. I am so bored. I am so sad. I'm so tired. I'm so left out. All that negativity spin has to be medicinalized or brought to a higher realm. This is my life's work. By valuing the elements and returning to the purity, to remembering what the masters have taught us. I mean, that's what's so exciting about the people that sit in this chair. We've all done the work to evolve our consciousness to become a teacher or a voice that says, please trust me. You are not being left out. Nothing is wrong. You're going to be okay. And there is a birth coming. Yes, she's screaming. It's scary. I can see why you're worried. Come home. Listen to the podcast, then turn on a candle, put on some incense, put on some music, read some of the masters, and give yourself back to, oh, that's right. This was all predicted.
And the thing is, if it's all predicted, then there is a plan.
Of course there's a plan. It's sitting right here.
There's a plan that this is just cycles. I mean, if you listen to Yukta Schwa's Holy Science, or you read the Holy Science, there's that 24,000-year cycle.
Yes, exactly. The Kali Yuga.
The Kali Yuga, where we are
right at the moment at the darkest spot.
So from my understanding, we've passed the darkest spot. But
we're turning the corner. Right.
We're turning the Dark Ages was the dark spot. That was as far down as we. That's from what I understand from.
I love that story.
So because the Dark Ages was nothing happened for. We were as. That's a reason why I call it the dark. Then what happened? The Renaissance, and then from there it started to go up, and now look at us where we are now. From where the Dark Ages, and that wasn't long ago. We're talking about what, 1,000 years ago, 800 years ago.
God, that wasn't long ago.
It's not in the scope of humanity, in the scope of a 24,000-year cycle.
I want to see where your Neptune is. You have such a big picture. You have the gift of being able to sense the whole vantage point.
To see the picture.
Yeah. And of course, you have Neptune in Sag, which is the big picture. Sag is the overseer. So it's the handicap of people listening right now. This is all true in theory. My practice, my life's work is bringing it down to their hearts, bringing it down to the relationship with their kid, bringing it down to how they speak to themselves in the mirror. Like, where does this hit the ground, this whole New Age conversation? Yeah. It's the internal dialogue. This is what my second book is all about. being able to turn on the observer and say nice things to oneself, to be able to be honest enough to say, yes, I have these funny quirks, and I need to stabilize me so I can prepare for this transition and be the agent, the helper, the healer, the one that says to everyone, calm down. And that's been one of my best jobs. I get to be like a fairy godmother for a lot of people.
No, of course.
And it's such a gift for me to be able to say to people as an astrologer, it's not as bad as you think. It feels bad. Your mind is going to argue with us. Oh my God, if you only knew what happened to me. Oh, you should see me in the mirror. Oh, I've gained all this weight. Oh my God, my husband is such a sleepy guy. That's all true at the surface level in that operating system. And then there's another level of consciousness, which you keep cultivating. I feel like you water our ability to take an elevator up and start to realize, wow, that's one line of the story. It's true. All that's true.
Oh, yeah.
But the higher road is to be able to maintain consciousness about the spiritual awakening while you're taking on a human experience. And that is not easy.
So all of these things that are happening around the world right now, the wars that are happening and as we're talking here, a hurricane just hit. Two hurricanes just hit Florida. I'm from Florida originally, so I've been through my fair share. But I've never seen, when I was growing up, there was nothing compared to this. You get one big storm, maybe 2 a year. Now they're just coming back to back to back to back. There's a shift. There's something happening. I mean, this storm that just passed was at its peak was at 180
Category
miles an hour, which is just basically a buzzsaw across. It'll clear everything. Nothing will be left standing. So all of these things are happening. How can we deal with what's happening?
Well, that's what I was saying. If my nervous system, first of all, you have to cry. You have to be real. You have to let your emotional body back to water, have its ride. So I'm scared, or I'm so sad, or I'm thinking about Israel, it just breaks my heart, or there's refugees. I mean, all I got to say is a word, and your little cancer is going to get all triggered. Mm-hmm. So yes, let the human dimension be prepared to be triggered. And this is what we can do. You let yourself be human. You don't bypass and pretend you're spiritual and say it's all meant to be and it's all perfect. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it's all meant to be. I'm open on that one, but it's not perfect. It's a really painful experience. So is giving birth.
I was about to say, that's...
Right, exactly. We're on the same street. Yeah. And then the wisdom keepers, the ones that are watching this, that are being cultivated, that are studying, taking their interest in really cultivating a brain, a higher mind. This is what Dwal Kul's work is. If you read, he's from Alice Bailey. There's a series
so let me stop you for a second. So Dwal Kul, okay.
We just jumped off the cliff here.
Just jumped off the cliff for a second, so because you've brought him up a couple of times.
I love him so much.
I was just introduced to Dwal Kul a few days ago, actually. And I had a psychic telling me, you know that there's some masters around you while you're doing your work. I'm like, oh, cool. And she's like, you know, one of them is Yogananda. I'm like, well, that makes absolutely all the sense of the world. And she said, there's another one next to you called Dwal Kul. And I go, who's Dwal Kul? And she's like, oh my God, you don't know who Dwal? I'm like, no.
You just said cool. Everyone this is my theory. It's Dwal Kul. And everyone on this planet, in America, North America, we say, that's so cool. And I always wondered, where did that come from until I realized Dwal Kul, through Alice Bailey, an English woman, this was the 1900s, she wrote about 24 books, channeled. You would have loved to have interviewed her. Mm-hmm. She sat at an old-fashioned typewriter. Dwal Kul came in, and all of the books, you can read them, but they're really hard to read. I'm just going to warn you. Dwal Kul talks...
Holy Science is not an easy book.
Yeah, either. I mean, Dwal Kul talks in such abstract. But what his message was, this is why I think he's sitting next to you, was we were going to go through this transition, taking us to the Aquarian Age. There would be a practice of a unified field that would come from a world order of beings who woke up inside the dream. And they come into the higher conscious, higher mind, and they start operating with telepathy and being able to really be compassionate, kind souls, and we make it through the transition. That's his belief. So all these books were written about exactly what your podcast is about, taking us through this era into the next era. And Dwal Kul, and why we say, oh, that's so cool, wrote about so many topics. All you got to do is look up those blue books called Alice Bailey, Lucas Foundation. It's so funny that you didn't know, because it is the most richest resource. And there's a book called Esoteric Astrology, 700 pages. She knew no astrology, sat at a typewriter, wrote this out, and I read the book when I was pregnant because it took a long time to read. And it was essentially a new reframe on what I'd already learned, what I came in with, because I remembered this at a young age. Here's the secret. I never had an astrology teacher. At the age of 10, I saw the word lit up like a Christmas tree, started studying so young, and became this like well-known astrologer. Don't tell anyone, but I didn't have a teacher. It was a remembering. And Dwa Kul, in that book, what she wrote, similarly, she knew no astrology, wrote a 700-page book, and the book specifically addresses, ready? The war between the soul and the ego. And that your ego's all dressed up in your personality. You're a Cancer, and you got a little Virgo rising. You're a perfectionist. And your soul is your higher self, the rising sign, is your pure intent. Virgo is the pure intent, your rising sign, to really want to get it right. So it drives you a little crazy, your soul, because it never lets you get off the hook. It's a perfectionist. It demands that you do the right thing. You can never cut corners. Am I right or am I right? And you have no earth in your chart. This is so funny. So your soul is earth. It's such a funny thing. You came in to not necessarily get your hands dirty in the name of perfectionism, but in consciousness. You're like, I only want the best in this show. That's Virgo rising.
That's very much so.
So this is the essence of Alice Bailey and Dwa Kul. Will the ego rule this reality? Will we be starving for this appetite of neediness, like consuming, and how I look? And it's all about glamour and the color of my hair and how I dress and the facade and the Botox.
The Instagram of it all.
Yes, that's it. And the other side is the soul, who says, excuse me, close your eyes. You don't need to look and see how this, just feel me. And put your heart in your hand and take a connection to your soul, and the whole thing softens. So that war that exists between she said, Alice Bailey Dwa Kul, there's an abnormal process on earth to evolve, is you have to destroy your ego in the quest of your soul. So it comes through hardship. It comes through difficulty. It comes through feeling bad about yourself.
You have to humble yourself. You have to.
So the good news, all of you that don't feel bad, you're on the right street. That's what it takes to get yourself so upset to have to sign off for a bankruptcy, or to have a death of a husband that I had, or to have something that happens where you're like, will I believe in God? And then they watch and they whisper and they say, you don't trust us?
We've been there.
Yeah, we prepared you for this. Don't you remember?
So Dwa Kul, Dwa Kul.
D-W-A-L,
Dwal Kul. So Dwal Kul is an ascended master.
He's a Tibetan.
He's a Tibetan.
All dressed in orange.
Yes.
Came to a little English lady who was literally married to a Baptist priest or a minister in England, came to her in a dream. You got to read the autobiography of Alice Bailey. That will give you the answer. Okay. And Dwa Kul came to her and said, would you write a book? And she was seeing things. She had the gift of vision, and she was like, not really. And then he came back again and said, I need you to write these books. And she was like, okay. And she sat down at the typewriter, and off came all of these unbelievable, they're blue books, and they have been at it's so funny, the center of my world.
So it's so funny that 2 days ago I heard.
I know. Don't you think that's synchronistic?
It's of course it is. It's like I've never heard of his name prior to.
I feel like he's a friend of mine. And
to a psychic telling me that the other day on the show, and then I just happened to mention it to you. I think before we.
And you named it wrong. You were like, I met this new guy.
This new guy,
He couldn't say it right. I was like, wait.
Is it? And you said it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's him. Like I literally had never heard of him. I mean, there's thousands of ascended masters, so it's hard to keep track of them all.
You.
Yeah, this is the group that I know, and I try to keep close to us here at the show and do what we do. That energy, they're everywhere. Have you noticed?
I did.
Yeah, the second you walk in here, they're everywhere. And
the first thing I noticed.
Yeah, that's where I always like to keep them around. And Yogananda was my gateway. He was my gateway drug into this world. And that's when I rediscovered Yeshua. That's when I rediscovered I
love this
Buddha.
so much. You're so sweet. You got the cutest little face. Part of the Cancer is that you become our family member.
Okay.
Everyone's your friend. You have this very sweet heart that makes it safe for us to go to these other places you're taking us to right now and open up to things we don't believe in, because you look like you're so sincere.
I am.
I know.
I
just had to say it.
People are fascinated sometimes when they come to the show, and afterwards they'll go, you're just kind of like the person on the show. I'm like, yeah, because
you're not fake.
I'm not. This is who I am. I'm like, you meet me on the street, this is exactly who you're going to find.
And as soon as I met your wife, I knew, oh my God, he scored.
Yeah,
and,
yes,
and a
yes.
really good man gets a really good wife, and she has earth and you don't. Ha ha.
Though there's that. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is a lot of things in the astronomy of it all is these solar flares. that are coming in.
And there's a big one that just happened.
So what does that mean from an astrology point
That's
of view?
not astrology. That's pure astronomy.
Okay.
And that's just a physical phenomenon that does have an effect on the electromagnetic field.
But that's also timing, I'd imagine.
It is, but it's not based on the predictability. It comes in radical changes. This is all very predictable. I can look at a chart and describe the timing of your life in a very astute way. That's more a random order where these effects come through the higher realms, and they are clearly inviting us to be rocked. I mean, we're being shaken. It just happened. The last 3 days was a really, did you know that?
No, I didn't know it was happening last 3 days.
It doesn't really matter what the source is. This is what you all need to know. Hello. Mm-hmm. We are in a time where we're being tested. You come to Earth because you want to see what you're made out of.
Oh, yeah, this is the PhD level.
And it's not an easy class.
No.
And if you're willing to do the work, it's one thing to watch a podcast and let this wonderful Alex tickle us and give us this warm feeling. It's another thing to do the work. And the work requires attentiveness. In the name, I'm going to go through the 4 elements. One is water, meditation. Mm-hmm. You can't just talk about meditation. And people talk about meditation, they don't really know. It makes me embarrassed when they talk about it. And I'm not good at it. I'm actually a Gemini, and I talk too much. So to actually calm me down, I had to practice it by the water. I learned that if I'm outside, I live in Hawaii half the year, and I'm in the quiet zone, I'm really good at it. But if I'm in the middle of New York City and there's a lot of buzz going on, I got to close the doors and I'm such an empath, 1, and 2, I'm such a little moving target. So water, meditation, the practice of stillness can come in many ways, not just sitting still. It can be exercise. It can be yoga. It can be listening to music. It can be guided meditation. Yeah. Gardening. Yeah. There's a million versions of how to get to water. So that's one of the medicines that this planet's desperate is how can I get to my calm without my phone in my hand? Mm-hmm. How can I let myself be still? How can I actually enjoy the moments with my children in the morning without talking? How can I create an atmosphere, feel it, the water, you're so good at it, that these masters live in? Look at them. Mm-hmm. They sit in silence. Mm-hmm. That's water. Second one is air, which you're really good at. Mm-hmm. This is your moon in Libra. Talking, communicating, but speaking truth and using our words to be accurate and being very deliberate about what we say about ourselves and how our internal dialogue takes over. That's air. People talk. My friend taught me this. They talk all day. They talk about nothing. If they're using words that have no weight and words just get flown around, it gets confusing. It gets indecisive. It feels like we're just teasing ourselves and flirting and we don't know how to do relationship because we're so disconnected. That's the low road of air. The high road of air is what we're doing. Using words to really have an effect. Poetry, touch people, choose your words, be kind, make a bridge from me to you, get closer because we just met and we're falling in love. It happens all the time in healthy air. You should be falling in love all the time. Those dogs are so cute. The babies are so cute. The wind just came across. Oh, this place is delightful. If the mind, air, is in its seat, the ego is seating, and the soul, the high mind, is giving you direction, gratitude, prayer, using words to be really respectful. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I made a mistake. Those are all healthy air. Then comes earth, which you don't have any. Earth is practicality, numbers, insurance, controlling, putting the dishwasher. Don't put the forks down. I said turn the controllers, the people that want things to be just right. They love to garden. They have organic, and they have their way of doing it, and they repeat themselves. They do the same food. They eat the same way. They go to the same music. They do the same. They're very predictable, grounded beings, but they get very controlling. And they start telling everybody else what to do. And they have all these opinions about the way you should be and how you should spend your money and what you should do with your money and you should save your money. And the high road of earth is the philanthropist that trusts, that knows that, I would like to do it my way, but oh well, it didn't happen today. So instead of getting angry and controlling and demanding and being the president and having all that arrogance, they say, I'm sorry. I just got a little controlling just now. I really want to I'm sorry. It's not happening the way I wanted it to happen. I'll surrender. Not easy for Earth. But for you, with no Earth in your chart, this whole realm of insurance and numbers and taxes, and it's not familiar, but you hire those people.
Right.
So if you're missing one of these elements, and how do you find out? You read the book. Then you go hire someone, which is what your wife has helped you with. And the last category is fire, and that's the really fun people, the loud ones, and they're really gregarious, and they have such funny jokes, and they eat too much, and they party, and they want to joint, they want to drink, and they want to indulge, and they have this thing called microdosing and sacred medicine, and they're all about the shamans, and they're all about the spirit. You're like, don't swear, they can't help it. They have dirty mouths. They just get very gregarious. They're the fun factor, but at the downside, they're addicted because they're so caught by the energy. They're so drawn to the juice, to the drama, they get caught. And the high road is they're spiritual teachers. And they stand and they give you wisdom. I have a lot of fire. I get so,
I was about to say.
I get so excited. I know. I can't stop. And you can't control it. I know. He got it. His intuition. Yeah.
I literally said, as you're saying, I'm like, so
She's
that's
so
you,
fire.
essentially.
Yes. And so I'm very enthusiastic and very blunt and very honest, and they say things they shouldn't say, but they can be healers because they say the thing that we all wish somebody would have said.
Well, they're blunt. They're blunt. They have a bluntness to them.
Yeah, did you tell? You could tell?
I could.
A little intuition here. This is a little Cancer with the Jupiter.
A little bit. I could sense that. I don't think I needed to be a Cancer to sense that.
No, yes, you did. Not everybody. Well, I guess maybe everybody gets it. Okay, well, I'm enthusiastic.
But that bluntness is something that is needed for a lot of people because that's the only way you can break through.
If you're using it without anger.
Right, with love.
People with fire that don't have the container of the water, they haven't learned the 4 elements, it gets to the time where they're pissed off and they're so blunt that they say things they regret. And they break things and they burn things down.
Of course.
And you can't put it back up after you say it. So there's mastery of each of these 4 elements, which is my book, The Missing Element. And it takes a little while.
Let me ask you, did you ever run the charts of any of the Ascended Masters?
Wow. No one's ever asked me that question.
You should actually see, because
wow.
So Yogananda, he's a recent. He was born in like 1890 something, and he died in the 50s.
I would love to see.
You should actually.
When we're done, we got 2 things. I want a picture of Yogananda on that picture. You're going to give me that.
Of course.
And I want to look up his chart, and I will tell you.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
So interested.
It would be fascinating to see, because Yeshua or Jesus. I mean, that's a whole other time.
Well, we don't even know their birthday.
Exactly, but we do know someone like.
Oh, I love that question you asked.
Even is it Dracul?
Dracul was not incarnate. He was a being that came through. He wasn't in form. Well, he may have been in Tibetan form, but he never was identified.
No. In Tibetan form, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I think he's a timeless one, like a Jesus, like a being who has transcended time in the physical form.
You mean Babaji? Kind of like a Babaji?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you're asking great questions. I'm going to leave here.
It's not me.
Okay, well, somebody that looks like you is asking really good
they're
questions.
They're here. They're actually talking through me. I don't know.
That's Mercury and Cancer. Yes, I see.
But no, it's a fascinating idea because
with Jupiter trying.
Because a lot of the things that you're pulling out of my chart, I'm like, I wonder if she actually saw.
I would love to.
And you can kind of go retro, go back to their life and go.
Every famous. Listen to me. There's not an autobiography. I'm obsessed with documentaries. Mm-hmm. Everything I grab my phone as soon as the thing starts, and I have the chart. Every movie I see, I'm watching Elvis. I have the chart in front of me I'm a little obsessed.
There's these. I think it was an Astrology. This is years ago when Titanic came out, the movie. And they were like, why is it working so well? Like, why is it like? And to this day, you can watch that movie. It's one of those perfect movies, in my opinion. But the relationship between Leo and Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, that chemistry is so magnetic. It's insane.
I would love to see that chart.
And they said that they were like, and then they brought an astrologer onto one of those new shows or something like that, and they're like, well. Leo is this and Kate is this, so this is actually perfect
I'm gonna go
match.
look at that when we're done. But here's my theory. Here's my theory why Titanic was the #1 watch film in, I think, all time.
It's still. I mean, it's still.
Okay, let me tell you why.
Yeah.
It's water. Because the zeitgeist, the collective dream that we're so scared about is that we're going to go down. And we are. So that film echoed, just like The Wizard of Oz. It echoes the archetypes and the storyline that lives in the unconscious. We all know that there's a love story that exists on this planet that is so exquisite, that keeps us here. But everyone knows death is coming, that there's a transition coming. And that story has so much vitality and fear and excitement and love. And that's what this existence is. We know there's going to be a moment we all go down. It's happened. 13 ice ages have occurred on this planet. Mm-hmm. 13 times the planet has come and gone. No one talks about it. So there is a memory in the unconscious that film reminded us of. We were all like on the edge of our seat. Well, we know the ending. Everyone went to see the film and we all knew the ending.
It made no sense.
That's my point. We all know the ending. And if there's another masterful word I'm going to use here in this podcast, the word death. When we become friends with that word and know it as the Hawaiians describe it, a changing of the address. Mm-hmm. Like we're not leaving, we're just moving. Mm-hmm. But the mind, that operating system goes death, beep, 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 death, don't talk about it, don't think about it. What if we became friends with the significant moment at the end of Titanic? So funny.
It's going to happen to all of us.
And if I had the wisdom, said the owl, if I could see in the dark, I would know that that is just a changing of the address. And I would be gentle and kind. And my dream when I grow up, even though I'm about to turn 70, so I'm growing up, but when I get to my 80s, I want to do death doula. I want to work with people. I'm built for the job because I don't fear it. I can walk in a room with someone sick, or walk in the room with someone dying, or hear the crisis, because I grew up with such trauma this life. It was so unbelievably painful that nothing scares me.
Right.
And that's the owl. I can see in the dark.
So I want to go back to something you said. So using Titanic, using movies throughout history, there are moments that there's certain movies that hit the zeitgeist. I'm thinking Jurassic Park.
The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz, The Matrix, when that came out. And then
Star Wars.
Close
Encounters.
These movies that were they just took over the world at that time. And Avatar, when Avatar came out. And when did Avatar come out? Avatar came out in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. So it came out in 2009, and it took another 8 or 10 years actually 12 years for the sequel to come out, which is The Way of Water. That was the name of the sequel.
See, it's water. You're a master of water.
So the sequel was called The Way of...
I know, you're a film crazy guy. You're a dreamer.
Yeah. Oh, of course, yeah. I'm a filmmaker,
So you're speaking to the zeitgeist, and I interrupted. Tell me the question.
So the question is, like films like Avatar, which was all air. It was air and earth.
Good catch.
So air and earth, Avatar is air and earth. The Way of Water is purely water. And the whole thing takes... Both of those were massive hits, massive hits. So when a movie like that hits, there's something in the zeitgeist, there's something in humanity's journey that is resonating with that. The Marvel films, like them or hate them, there was the moment when Endgame came out, which was the second or third biggest movie of all time, where it was this combination of the multiverse and the idea of that stuff.
Totally.
That thing has gone into the zeitgeist. Now I'm talking to quantum physicists about the multiverse and parallel realities and things like that on the show, where 10 years ago, that's not a conversation.
I know, we're waking up inside the dream.
So what are the significance of those films hitting at the time that they hit astrologically?
If I knew, it'd be very easy. This is something I've always been fascinated by, is timing in the zeitgeist relative to the planet. So for example, this year, Pluto enters Aquarius, 2027, all the outer planets move. There'll be a new narrative. That's what you're asking. So I'd have to go back and look at those years, and that would be a fascinating show, to look at all the astrological implications that were put in place. But I can't answer it now.
Of course.
But I can say this. The dream state that occurs in a film, or occurs in our dream time, or occurs in a near-death experience, which I don't think is a dream state. I think that's more real than this.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question. The dream states are our gift to start mirroring and blending the worlds, and that's when death will become friendly. When we start realizing that our dream state, a death experience, a movie that you see where you're completely suspended, and you know what I do in a movie? I start looking at the people. As soon as I love watching how we have gotten caught in a dream and no one knows where they are.
If it's a good movie.
And we've completely been captured by Dorothy and Toto, and we believe Toto's real, and we really think the Tin Man is going down that street, and we're so scared when those witches come. And then that's all the ability of the mind to use its imagination, and that same power is available to us to rewrite this next era. You know, my biggest fear is AI.
Why do you say that? Because I'm optimistic on AI. It's a tool like any other. You know,
I don't want to be a pessimist, but there is a lack of legislation, and there's a lack of governance that's occurring, and the actual ability for AI to pass us, which has occurred, the intelligence, it's only now. You wait to see the next 5 years. Whether or not there's any introduction of parenting, of governing, of giving instructions of emotional wisdom, if that is not inserted, we will have a dangerous on our hands.
Well, the thing
I hate to say it.
I know, but the thing is that with something as powerful as AI, I think that
they're watching.
I love that the universe is watching, that the other side is watching.
Take a deep breath because Alex is here.
There's a drama that's happening here. And again, as a director, as a filmmaker, when I'm on set and I'm shooting a scene, it could be a violent scene, it could be an action scene, a car can flip over, there could be a love scene, it could be chaos, but there's calm. behind the scenes because we all know what's happening.
I love this story. I'm going to listen to this to putting me to sleep. You guys, this is a good podcast to help you sleep.
Appreciate
it's so soothing.
Because you're looking at
You're right. There is some creative powers behind the scenes that designed astrology, that creates and is the directors, and how dare we not trust them?
Correct. So with something like AI, which I completely see, look, everything could have gone the wrong way. Everybody, I don't know how many countries have the bomb right now. There's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of them that have it. Yet, we've only used it twice in World War II, and we were the ones that used it, okay? It hasn't been used again. Now, everyone has the ability to, like there's, 15, 10, whatever, are nuclear powers around the world, but yet it has not been used.
Such a dream. Thank you for saying that.
So, if that's the case, and we're at war with countries who have it, but it's an end game. Everyone knows that, like, if I use it, it's over. The game is over. So there's always a fear of, like, is this person absolutely insane or not? And I've heard stories of things accidentally almost going off. Like accidentally Russia, and during the Cold War, something might have happened, and it was one dude who said no. And that's the only reason it didn't get fired. Like, there's always some sort of point where it gets stopped because it's not part of...
Do you read your kids' stories when they go to bed?
I don't know.
Did you ever read them stories?
A little bit here and there.
Because you're such a comforter.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's just the truth.
But if you're looking...
But you're right. Of course you're right, and thank you for that. And I shouldn't be so nervous, and it just defies all my faith, because I totally have faith in astrology.
Right. So if that's the case...
It is one of the... I think because I see the human condition and the collective laziness. I mean, this is my call. People study. Use your brain. I feel like astrology is like Windex. Like, it cleans off all the parts of your brain that you stopped using, because you got to memorize. In the first level, there's 3 levels of the class, and level 1 is only 6 weeks. It's once a week with 10 people in a room, and you study your chart. And I watch people, like, they come back. So that left brain function needs to be activated, and what you're doing is cultivating the right brain function, which is saying, have faith. You don't need to understand, but I promise you they're watching us.
Oh, listen, when you say you don't need to understand, what we're doing here makes no sense to me whatsoever. This show, me being the host of it, makes no sense whatsoever. On paper, it's ridiculous. Filmmaker, never did anything in spirituality, all of a sudden becomes one of the largest shows in the world in regards to this. It makes no sense. So I have to believe that there is a plan, and I've been witness to this plan.
So sweet.
But it's the truth. Like, it doesn't, on paper, it's not like I was a monk for 8 years. In my 20s, I've come back, and now I'm spreading out monk wisdom to everybody, and now I have a show. I get that. Makes all the sense in the world. But I'm a dude just trying to make some films, have a show about filmmaking and storytelling, and all of a sudden I'm, like, thrown into the mix of spirituality and all the stuff that we're talking about.
And what is it about your chart? You have 3 planets in the 10th house of fame.
What is that?
There's the sun, as I described,
right.
Saturn,
right.
as I described are together, and Mercury are all in the same position at the time. Because you were born at noon, is that true?
How did you know that?
I'm psychic.
Was born at noon, yes.
And so all the planets were on top of the sky. Like, you were literally born when the sun was at the... So in astrology, anyone born... There's so many famous people who have sun in the 10th house. So it is... Your question is so well posed. How did I become the one that they're using as this vehicle to speak to all these topics when I wasn't a monk in my 20s? But in your chart, there was a promise that was put in the chart of fame and success, and it has all to do with water. It has all to do with the wisdom of the unconscious, of the wisdom of the masters brought to us by the people you interview.
Really?
Isn't that cool?
And it's fascinating that during my entire career, I was around fame all the time.
That's part of your chart. So this is back to Mr. Standards. Like, you just naturally go to the people that are the best. It's your instinct. It's your natural rhythm. And some of us are the opposite. We end up going to the weirdest people by mistake and had to learn discernment. You came with it.
No, don't get me wrong. I have picked the wrong people along my path.
It didn't take you long to get out of that story.
No, it's not that I did it again and again. No, I figured it out. But I did make some mistakes early on when I was a kid. Yeah.
And so can we talk about your ambitious soul that got you in this position, that said yes to this job? Like, how did you get the job?
My spiritual teacher told me to do this.
Bingo.
Yeah. She told me, open up a spiritual podcast. I go, you're insane. And she's like, you got 3 weeks to do it. Go do it. And I did. I completely just by faith.
And see how you obeyed and you did obedience? This is the nature of Saturn.
But I'm not obedient.
You break the rules, but you listen to your soul.
Yeah.
Mr. Soul all over this. That's distinguished. Your obedience is to your soul, not to your ego. And that's the war that Dwa Kul addressed. And when we give ourselves over to our soul, and that's all my life's work is. All I'm doing with people, I have these immersions where I'd love to have you speak. I have people come and they speak, and we do an hour long, and there's 20, 30,000 people in the room. And I remind them over and over and over and over again, give your life over to your soul. You put your ego in a seat, you visualize it, sitting to the left of you, sit it down, and tell them to stop talking. When you get the conscious awareness of your observer that tells your ego to shut up, and then you start identifying as your soul, not that mean, kind, just sit there. And then the soul starts to operate, which means you slow down, you listen more. Soul stands for Source of Unconditional Love, S-O-U-L.
That's beautiful. I love that.
When you let your soul take over, it's not an easy thing. It's so unnatural. This is what Alice Bailey said. It's so unnatural to go and put the ego in its seat because it's like screaming and yelling and making stories and looking in the mirror and talking all day in the middle of the night. Who pays the guy? He just talks. The soul, the ego is crazy until you say, excuse me, it's like a kid. Like, I'm in charge, and I appreciate your feedback, but not right now. I'm just trying to listen to Debra and Alex talk.
So these masters, all these masters who are on the wall and the masters we're talking about, they were able to completely quiet the ego and connect directly to their source. They find enlightenment, for lack of a better term.
I love that.
Self-realization. They understand who they are and why they're here. They have a very clear idea. And many of them, not all, but many of them did go through the journey. You know, Jesus went through the journey. Yogananda.
All of them went through the journey. Hello.
From what
maybe not on Earth.
Not on Earth, but they went somewhere.
Okay,
they did the journey.
But everyone has to evolve.
Exactly. So they all go through the journey. But someone like Yogananda, when he showed up, he didn't really want to do any of this. He's like, I just want to stay in India and teach. I'm solid. I don't need to go to America. They're crazy there. And he gets here. He's like, what kind of country have you sent me where they eat hot dogs? They're eating dogs. What? God, why have you sent me to this horrible place? Like, it's genius, just genius stuff. But they refuse the call. That's like the hero's journey 101, the refusal of the call. When the heroes asked, you now must go on this journey.
And what people suffer from that are in your audience, unlike your spiritual teacher telling you what to do, they don't know what to do.
And they're searching.
And that's where astrology comes in, because this gives us direction. I mean, I hate sounding like my dad was a used car salesman. I hate sounding like a salesman. He always wanted me to sell things. But the truth is, this is an ancient resource. And you don't have to believe in it. There are people that are authorities on it. And when they look at your chart, and I would look at your chart and I'd say to you, listen, this lifetime you have to excel, and you're going to have to be the best. And nothing's going to be tolerable to you unless you really do it with all the gusto you've got. And it's specific to your emotional body, your intuition, and your curiosity from your feeling and from your marriage. You've got Moon in Libra. You have to be partnered. Because once someone's got your back and she has Earth, the whole thing's going to go smooth. But if we leave you alone, you're emotional and you're not trustworthy because you get caught in feelings. And once there's kids and there's a job and there's focus, you're good to go. But don't leave him alone too long without them around, because you're too kind of cute and young and emotional and distracted. And am I right or am I right?
I'm the dreamer.
That's right.
I'm the dreamer. I like to, but the dream is what gets us where we are. Without that engine, we don't go anywhere. But without the grounding, we can fly off into the universe.
Exactly. All four elements. So you have to have the dream is the water, air is the communicating, earth is the grounding, and fire is putting on the show, putting on the lights, making sure we're all dressed up. I like the fire. He caught me. I can't believe he nailed it. You got fired, Deb. Oh, really?
Yeah, a little bit. One thing about, you mentioned this earlier when you were looking at our charts, you said that our karma is in there. Can you explain that specifically? Because, I mean, I get everything else, but how can the karma be laid out? Like, in this life, you're going to, I'm sure you're not going to say, when you were in Rome, you did this, and this.
I wish I could.
Right? That'd be amazing.
I could.
But you would just say...
You probably have people on the show that can do that.
Of course, yeah.
They can do past
I say
life.
these things like, oh yeah, of course. Many past life reviews and therapists that can kind of do that kind of work. But
the karma is described by the chart.
So what is I don't want my karma.
I'm telling you. Yours,
all right, go ahead.
It's so strong. It's a red line. So one of the clues is the red lines, and that talks about tension.
Okay.
And karma always shows up as tension. Karma is always the part in our lives where it pisses us off, or it confuses us, or it's a challenge, and we have to work through it. It doesn't go away. And you know what your karma is, which I have the same exact one. Pluto squares your sun, which means your ego has this Pluto energy pushing it down. Like, even though you're supposed to be famous and you're supposed to get out there, part of you's like, I don't know why they picked me. When you were younger, it was so hard to identify. Like this, I had the same thing. Like, how did I get to be this well-known astrologer? It wasn't your ego was not driving it. In fact, it was kind of suppressing it. Some part of you was self-conscious. Like, I don't know how they gave me this. That's the karma that's going to keep you humble. But in some past life, what it suggests is either you were humiliated or you were humiliating people. So this life you came in going, look, don't let my ego get out of hand. Promise? Make me feel self-conscious just slightly and keep me undermined. And so it serves you, this karmic issue, especially in this role. Yeah. So instead of you thinking like, I know it all, I've got the masters, you're like, I don't know what they're doing here. I don't know why they like me. So I feel the same exact way. I'm like an astrologer who sincerely, it's almost 50 years I've been in practice.
Right.
Can you imagine?
It's fascinating because when you say that, like, I'm so reluctant. I'm like,
exactly.
if I could do this without being on camera, I would.
I understand completely.
If no one knew,
square.
If no one knew who I was, I'd be completely fine with that. Seriously. Early in my career, when I was in my young 20s, the ego was a bit out of control, and any little bit of fame started to feed it. But the universe figured out, I'm like, okay, let's start beating them.
That's Saturn
down.
Square Pluto.
And that's where we start. And then the beating started to the point where I've been humbled so often.
Now you're good at it.
Now I'm just like, listen, man, I just work here. I
always say, how did I get this job?
It's a mystery.
But that's the gift of so that's karma. Isn't that interesting? So karma can work in our favor because once you learn the message, but karma can also be very repetitive for people.
If they don't listen to this.
And they can't get a relationship to work. They can't get money to work. They get their bodies hurting. They get their denial of their own gifts. They feel themselves insecure. I'm naming so many people in this audience. Mm-hmm. And that's karma. Until we become conscious of it and we embrace it and go, oh, I guess my ego's so out of whack, I just shouldn't have one. That's what I figured out. Like, I don't know. People make a big deal. Sometimes like you, they notice me because I have these videos. You haven't even seen them yet. I have 8 million views of one set of videos that are 5 minutes of each sign. I act them out with a little outfit. So embarrassing. And when I first did them, I was so embarrassed that I put them in a drawer because it looked like schizophrenia. Like, who does that? Acts like 12 different people. And so I didn't tell anyone. And then I had my first website and the woman said, do you have any videos? And I was like, I have this, hold on. And I gave it to her and I heard her hysterically laughing in the other room. And she said, could I put this on YouTube? And then it went viral. And it was because my ego was like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and I had to learn that I was wrong. That my self-consciousness, it took me a while. So everyone out there, all the karma that's sitting in your world, once you become aware of it, and that's why we study this. When you know, like I'm telling you, that Pluto squares your sun, now you can celebrate, yes, I know, I don't really know how I got here, but I do get here and I am successful. And if the years go by, the gift has been for me in aging is the humility and the honesty about my chart. I can't believe we have the exact same one. It's very unusual. And there's a million different red lines. You can go look, but you're not going to know how to interpret them. But that's why we have the school, and that's why we have astrologers to help assist people to figure out what is the karma.
Well, listen, we have experts in all fields of our life, you know?
And all you got to do is look at your life, because karma is not vague. It's not subtle. If you've got an issue with your body and it's karmic and some past life injury, you've got an issue with this brother of yours that always bugged you from the minute you got young, that's karma. Or your mother never got you and you can't believe that's your mom. That's karma.
Oh, I had somebody had a near-death experiencer come on who was able to see past lives in his near-death experience, and he was in a scene where he was able to pop into the scene that he was in, and he was in like the 1300s in Scotland. Giant monster of a man, red hair, and he was in a battlefield. And in the battlefield, someone threw an axe and hit him right here. And he's like, in this life, I've had injuries and pain here my entire life. I goes, oh, so if you have a mole on your back, that could have been a gunshot.
Well, don't get carried away, but yes.
It could be a serious situation. It could be a gunshot that you got shot in the back.
Continuation.
It manifests in
That's how I learned
physically.
astrology. Why did I not have a teacher? Because I remembered it. So that's the upside of karma. If you've devoted yourself, if any of you are devoted to music or to art or to love or to poetry, and you do it for a whole lifetime or a series of lifetimes, which is what I've done, then you come in and you go, oh, I remember. Don't need to teach me. I got it here in my back pocket. That's called recapitulating. That's part of Dwa Kul's teachings. The beings that come in with a memory, that have the past life inheritance, get to embody it in this life. But there's a lot of people that can't remember.
Or refuse to access it.
Because of the food we eat, because of the way that we sleep, because of the way that we got trained as kids, because we bought the Kool-Aid and it tastes like... But you can't stop drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, it tastes good, but it doesn't serve the body. That's one of the big... Part of what you're supposed to ask me is, how did you stay so young? Why do I have so much energy?
Exactly. How did you stay so young? And why do you have so much energy with your fiery self?
Exactly. That was so right. Part of it is the fire, but part of it is I learned very young, and I wish I could tell, and lots of my students are millennials, pay attention to how you eat. Pay attention to what you eat. Pay attention to the emotional body's need to distract you and to talk bad to you. Like, there's ways to keep your energy up, but you have to go through it. You have to go through the pain body. You have to go through the therapy. You have to go through the process, whether that's sacred medicine or going to therapy or doing the work that's required. There's so many places here online. Wow. But you have to do the work to get to the point where you reconnect to your healthy self and you clean off, and you have to cry. You have to get angry. You have to do all that real human stuff to keep the system clean. And boy, do we pretend we're normal.
So have you ever heard of Indian palm reading?
I have heard of Indian palm reading.
So Indian palm reading is very interesting.
Have you had someone here with that?
No. So the Indian palm, it's not this palm. It's actually a palm. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, because this goes...
then I know I'm not.
All right. So this is a very, very, very interesting. I've had an expert on the show to talk to me about this. And it's exactly like astrology. So this is what happened. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, a bunch of masters sat down and just started writing predictions of what was going to happen to a large group of the population on Indian palms. So like the palm leaves of an Indian plant. I don't know what the plant is. And then they bound them and numbered them, and there was a system to put them all, and they just put them away. So let's say right now I'm going to go get, I need you to go find my palm. So you put your fingerprint. All they need is your fingerprint. They take your fingerprint, and then they send it to people who've been trained from 100,000 to whatever long ago it was. And they go and find your palm. If there's a palm to be found.
Deepak Chopra had this done.
I think so.
He told me the story.
So it's like 6 months to go find it, because they gotta it's not all in like one giant library.
Parchment paper. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like in multiple places around India.
And not everyone has one.
So they go and they find. If you find it, the reader will give you a session, and they'll go, okay, give me your birthday, and they'll just start going.
Your birth date, the name of your children, the day you're going to die.
Next page. And once they lock you, I'm like, okay, this is you. And then at that moment that you're getting the reading, that is what's on the palm leaf. It's
Deepak told me.
Insane.
Yeah. No, that's such a high level of what's occurring on this planet. So thankful that you're aware of that. This is what you do. You take us to the highest levels outside of the mainstream, where there's magic occurring, to give us faith again, to know that there's an organization happening here. And that's what every astrologer knows, that there is an organization. You have given to me today the gift of knowing that they're watching us. And with AI, my great fear, because I do have a concern, what am I scared about? You think they're not? Hello? And the same is true with that palm. You don't think they're watching us and there's not organization? And those of you watching this today, that's not a coincidence.
When you're an actor, I'm going to give you another thing. When you're an actor working on a set and you have to have an emotional scene, in order for the actor to have that emotional scene, they need to trust the director is creating an environment for them that they can expose themselves emotionally, where they can feel comfortable to explore. They need to feel safe. That is what a good director does in a scene like that. that's what they're doing for us.
I love that so much. You're just the cutest thing. You just make me feel so good.
Because
that's what they're doing. Of course, that's what they're doing.
They're trying to make you feel comfortable in what's going on, even though the scene might be violent, it might be death happening, it might be all this stuff. But we're creating an environment for you to be able to experience that. That's what this whole thing is.
Every near-death experience, and I have watched you. I can't even tell you how many I've watched. I kind of had an addiction for a while. I had a mistress. I felt like it was a mistress. Like I was in love with near-death experiences, and I couldn't tell anyone. And then because it just sounds morbid. Yeah. But then eventually, what the consistent factor? There's many consistent factors. One of them is as soon as you leave this level of reality, it softens, just as you're describing, and you feel the embrace of this unconditional love. And there's a being, whether it's your guide or whether it's the guides, and whether there's an angel right at the scene of the crime, right where the accident happened. You suddenly feel a hand come on you, and everything's just, it's what you do. Everything softens. And that's the clue for me that this place is being well handled and loved and cared for from another level. But at Earth, it's so dense and it's so raw and it's so dangerous.
But the thing is this, that for people who don't believe in a higher power, and that's fine, and that's not their journey in this life, and I get that, but I find it to be so painful
to live in that
energy, because that there's something else bigger than us. I'm not trying to, no religion, nothing like that. Just the concept that there's an organizing factor to the universe. Einstein said that when he went deep down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, his line, God is not playing with dice.
Yeah, exactly. So to understand that everything is happening organized in a way that we can't comprehend makes me sleep at night.
It makes me sleepy. I feel like having a cuddle now.
Yeah, I mean,
this was like the best podcast. I feel better. I hope you feel better. I feel so much better. It's because we forget.
Well,
what is it about the operating system that limits our capacity to sustain the knowing, the truth?
What kind of game would be played if you're the player at the game? If Mario if Mario is playing in the game and Mario knew he's Mario and that this is all a game, Mario's going to play the game differently. He might not even let you control him. He'd be like, "No, I'm not going to move."
So funny.
Kind of thing. So basically we're all Mario and we're all trying to.
But here's the deal, what you've done. If you give your power to those that you know have your best interest.
Right.
If you give your power to the masters that are watching us, tell me what to do. I am totally all yours.
It makes life so easy.
But that's the thing that you're doing. Why is this podcast so popular? Because every time I watch you, I'm like, first of all, he's so friendly. But it's a very comforting feeling and then the conversations continually echo the truth about the higher realm, Dwakul. And once that occurs, then the hardship of this physical plane where the operating system is locked down becomes a little easier to transition to the higher mind.
It's such a limiting idea that if you stay inside that operating system.
It's addicting.
It's extremely addicting, especially if you're watching news and you're watching media and you're watching social media and you just go down this echo chamber of fear, then it's extremely addicting. I get it, because the ego wants to be reinforced of its own fear and to keep going deeper, deeper, deeper till it becomes really dangerous, not only for yourself, but for people around you. We've seen that.
Well, that's what's going on.
Right. And that's why everyone's so divided. And
that's why this is so important, what we're doing right now today.
And then there goes that whole thing. I'm like, really? Is it important?
But it is really that important, because you have given us such a profound, hard evidence, like an experience. Every time we watch one of your stories, these are so crazy because the energy shifts. You shift energy. Don't you know that about yourself?
Yeah, I mean.
And don't you think it's funny Dalai Lama has the same chart as you?
That's
He's
interesting.
also a Cancer Virgo. And it's the same. Just think about it. We don't care what he says. He walks in the room and everyone goes, "Oh, I feel so much better." And what has he spent 13 lifetimes? Do you know that he's incarnated 13 lifetimes in a row without ever a break, always doing the same thing, praying for the end of evil.
Interesting.
Sealing the door of evil. That's what Dwakul's whole practice was. There'll come a time on this planet where we're going to have an entirely different system. And we won't even have the word evil. We won't have the word war. And we won't understand anxiety, which got way too popular. It's going to be a different frequency and a different template. And you are transitioning us, and we are transitioning us by becoming aware of the higher levels of consciousness and living there while doing the laundry. This is Mr. Earth. Hello. Doing the laundry, doing the dishes, making sure you took care of your kids on time, making sure they carve out the time to do these podcasts. But back at the ranch, that's the place where we practice. The real honest experience of being spiritual is what you say to your kids and how you deal with your husband and your wife and how you deal with your best friend or loneliness or how you deal with your mother-in-law. That's really where it shows up.
Isn't it amazing when people's ego gets into spirituality? Like, I'm more spiritual than you. I am the most spiritual. Yeah, and I listen to the
funny.
I read the right books. I listen to the right podcasts.
I take the classes.
I take the classes. I'm dressed appropriately. I have the
Yoga.
proper thing. I'm doing, but yet they're like, I've met
sacred medicine.
Yeah, they do all of that stuff, but it's all coming from an earthly, a grounding plane.
Well, that's very humbling because to me, we could judge that story, which is very easy to judge because I judge them.
Yeah.
I judge those people, and then I learned to say to myself, "Hold on, Deb."
No, that's their journey.
Yes, I was there. I was so full of shit. You don't know. When I was younger, I was not this authentic.
Oh no, I think we all have to go through a journey. We all have to kind of go through missteps and do things that you have to be humbled. You know, and some won't get it in this life, but others who hopefully will evolve will get that in this life. I mean, like if I would have, I mean, the lines that I would say to my wife when I first met her, when my movie was taking off, were ridiculous. I go back and I cringe. I'm like, what did I just say to you? Like in the weight of like, look who I am, kind of thing. And I was nobody. That was not even nobody. It was nothing. It was insane.
It's so sweet. But evolution is the name of the game.
Absolutely.
I think we're getting ready to end this podcast. I'm going to give you the pointers. Evolution, continually learning, being humble enough to keep learning, to keep the mind open. That's error. Making sure that you really do take care of the practical things. If not, hire someone. But honor and respect this physical plane by keeping it clean and respectful and sacred. And most of all, fire. Don't forget to have fun. If you're not having fun here, if you're not jumping off a cliff, if you're not going on a holiday, if you're not giving somebody a big giant tip, if you're not feeling the music, if you're not dancing.
So, all right. So with everything we've talked about, for people watching, what does astrology say about where we're going in this next year, election year? I don't need you to tell me who's going to win. I don't care. But what's going to happen to the collective for the rest of this year? Next year seems a little rough, but then towards the end of this decade to the 30, because from what I hear, 2030, this whole run's going to be that bumpy road that we're talking about. That's what I've understood. I'd love to hear from your point of view.
I love that question. I am more of a therapist, psychologist, psychotherapist than I am a predictor. I do track what is occurring in the collective, but I don't feel that's my expertise. I will confidently say, starting in 2027, when Saturn's in Aries and Uranus is in Aries and Uranus is in Gemini and Neptune is in Aries and Jupiter's, it's so many fire and air planets going on the outer realm. What I can confidently say is the transition between 2025 and 2027, as to your point, is very, very bumpy. And there'll be decisions being made as an individual and as a collective, regardless of who wins, of how we're going to handle what's happening. It doesn't really matter who wins. We are going through a rough patch, period. And this has already begun. And we're seeing it with the hurricanes. We're seeing it with there's too many things to name. We did that. The real question is less about where is it going to end, happy ending based on our masters here. How are we going to transition? How will you handle in your household, with your family, with your kids, with your schooling, with your job, the ability for you to be the one responsible to be the healing agent? How can you get yourself centered? That's the question. How can you soothe your nervous system, create respect for these four elements that are as old as the mountains, as the hills, as the history of time, learning how to use water, air, earth, and fire to ground and respect the creative powers. That's all I know. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I know it's a rough patch. I know it's going to go through a really, really high-strung, vital energy with the fire and air. But what I do know for sure is you can count on me. And I want everyone to say that. You can count on me to be stable, to be respectful, to hold you, to listen to you. And I want everyone to practice the mastery of the nervous system by taking deep breaths and doing whatever you have to do to remember all is well. Because that's the truth.
Another question I had for you, as we've been talking about all this woo-woo stuff, astrology and everything and the planets aligning and all this kind of stuff, is there
a practical understanding of why when this planet is aligned with this planet, is there an energetic pull or magnet? Is there any sort of science? Because look, and before I let you talk, the moon is around us.
Exactly.
The moon has a physical effect
on the tides.
on this planet, and there's a reason why when there's a full moon, that's when the crazies come out because
the question.
Right. So that's the same thing that's happening.
That's exactly the same. There's an electromagnetic force field that occurs between these giant beings who are all part of a team. And we know their names, and we've seen them since the beginning of time. And they work as a team sport. It's a chorus. It's like a little bit of a organized, beautiful dance when you can speak it. And yes, the moon is influencing the cycles of a woman, the tides of the water. It's predictable as can be during a full moon. So you're asking a question from the left brain. I can't explain it logically. I can only tell you the evidence screams every time I do this. Every single, I came as a skeptic. That's why the book's called I Don't Believe in Astrology. I started off as a totalist. The first half of the book's not astrology. It's just the challenging of the operating system. And then we start talking details of astrology, which I'm not sure your mind couldn't use a good dose of. I'd love to teach you astrology.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's information that will support you. I mean, I think everyone should learn it, tell the truth. But it isn't happening yet. It will come. It will be in the school system. As soon as your kids are born, they should come straight to your house and say, let me explain your kids to you. And here's how you're going to support
But you understand that for people who are not initiated, it sounds insane.
Exactly.
It sounds
I know.
absolutely
We're in
nutty.
the future.
Where it's absolutely nutty. This conversation sounds insane to someone who's not initiated open to these ideas. I always come from the point of view of like, what if? Or the proof is in the pudding. So like,
did I not speak directly to your character?
I think almost everything you've said has been nailing other aspects of me and of my journey and where I've been and where I'm hopefully going. So the proof is in the pudding. That's why when people are like, do you believe in psychics? I go, I've had too many experiences when they nail something. Oh my God,
you know better than anyone.
That nails exactly things that, when I had a friend of mine, Matt, was on the show and he did he did a live reading for fun. We did it on the show. And he said something that 3 human beings on the planet knew. Literally 3 human beings knew about this thing that he said. And he said it, I'm like, how in God's green earth do you know that?
Why do I love that?
And I had to call the other person who knew it, and I told them, they're like, no. And I got to see the interview. And they're like, I can't believe it. So there's so many of those things that have happened throughout my life. So I'm a complete believer because it's been proven to me.
Right.
If you tell me
You've
now,
done
you're like,
research.
And you've told me I can fly. I'm like, that sounds great, Debra. And I'm glad that you believe you can fly.
I do it in my dreams.
But until I see you fly in front of me, it's going to be a very difficult pill for me to swallow. And even if you're a master yogi, even if a master yogi walks in and goes, he first of all would never say I can levitate. But if let's say he says I can levitate, I'd be like, 50-50? Sure, maybe. I don't know. Let's take a look. I'm a practical.
Yes.
I'm a practical.
With no earth in your chart.
Yeah,
it's your Saturn. You want hard evidence of real quality that you can chew on.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, you've done that right here in the show. Yeah. So good news is we are now believers because of you. You've taken us up a notch. I hope the show has really helped and given people permission to consider that maybe astrology could be valuable. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, opening up to Dwa Kul or opening up to the higher masters or putting yourself in the elemental. This is an easier book. Well, the other book they say is much better, but the missing element is an entrance level. And if you write to my website, I will put your chart into the book, and I'll mail it to you with a chart right in the book.
Careful.
Because they're all going to want it.
They're careful. Don't be saying things like that out loud.
You can go to Amazon. You can go to Amazon in case you want to go to Amazon. And my new book is coming out in April 2025 in 15 languages.
That's amazing. Let me ask you.
Wait, can I just say Lithuanian, Russian, French, German, Italian,
So
Portuguese.
Have you noticed that this is not just an English thing anymore?
I guess so.
No, that these ideas like astrology.
Yes.
How does it work around the world? I mean, you've been around the world, I'm sure. How does astrology work in these different cultures?
It's crazy.
Tell me.
It stays the same.
Really?
Isn't that amazing? It's a universal language, as the stars are, transcendent of any culture, any lines on the earth. It transcends in the highest realms, and it is a real resource for reminding us why we came here. I love that story.
That's amazing.
Makes me so proud to be on that team.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all my guests.
Okay.
What is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Devotion and service. I get very, very fulfilled every day. I go to bed every night and I say, when my head hits the pillow, I'm like, I'm so thankful. So gratitude, devotion, and constantly I'm always asking the question, who can I serve today? That's very fulfilling with my children, with my job, with my people, with my family, with my friends. It's so fulfilling. Yeah, it makes me excited.
If you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little Debra, what advice would you give her?
It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. She had such a scary, scary entrance. And it was such a long movie, and there was so little evidence that it was safe. I never got that till I got to the point where I woke up. So if I could have said, I could have whispered to her, like, I know, it's so hard. I promise.
It's the equivalent of being in a horror movie and not knowing it's a movie.
Yeah.
That you're playing the characters and you believe that everything's happening.
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very scary. But I would say to her, whisper, and hold her.
How do you define God or source?
When my son was very little, you'll love this. He said, Mom, stop the car. I have some questions. He was in his car seat. So I pulled out a pen. This is crazy. The first question was, how did Adam and Eve actually get here in the first place? The second one was, how do you know if God exists if you can't see him? And the third one was, does God ever die? I was like, okay, above my pay grade. I don't know. Give me a minute. I'm going to ask some people. I said, let's ask our family. Let's do a little research. So the answer that I love that he got about how he knew God exists is, it doesn't have to see it. This is what he told me. You don't have to see God. You can feel it.
Right.
So it's a feeling. I've had it today. As soon as I entered the space, there, you know when you're in a holy space, when you're in sacred space, when the presence of those that you cannot see are present. And while it may not be God in a singular entity, there are definitely hosts of masters who embody, starting with Christ, who I happen to have a love affair with, but there's many that continued under his legacy, under this lineage of this planet, the hierarchy that are watching us. So I take what he said as truth. It's a feeling. And I can't explain it, but I sure know when I can feel it.
Fair enough. What is love?
That's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
You ask big fat questions like that. It's my passionate love affair for the sun. I have a thing for the sun. I'm an astrologer. I am so in love. And I see it in the eyes of babies. And I see it in the eyes of my lover. And I see it in the eyes of my best friend. I'm like, I don't know. That's a hard one. What do you say? I want to hear your answer.
Love is the energy that runs the universe.
That's the sun.
Yeah, it's the energy that holds us all, and it's the currency of the other side.
Did we have a good podcast, you guys? I'm going to watch this one again.
And lastly, what is the ultimate purpose of life?
The ultimate purpose of this life is to celebrate the creators, to remember who put us here, to devote our lives to the gratitude for that which we cannot see and for the ones that brought us to this and brought us this. Some very, very high intelligence, some very masterful body of beings have been watching us, and our job, our purpose, is to return the same gift of love they give to us to them.
Now, this other question is...
Did you take that in?
I did.
Because you do it all the time. In love with those that create us. To slow everything down. The purpose of this life, every day, is to pray in gratitude to us.
Oh, yeah. No question about that. And this is just a fun question. I want to hear what you think. Everything in astrology is based around our solar system.
I love how you think.
Why? What do you think astrology is like in a solar system that's maybe 50, 100
so this is a story I've never
ago?
told. I think you hit this a lot from people.
Yeah.
I had the most significant dream of this lifetime. I woke up in the dream, and the very first scene was this man sitting on a bench that was just concrete, as if you were sitting at a bus stop. And I looked at him, and I was so in love with him. The first things out of his mouth was, "We don't have sex here." I don't even know. So I was like, that was interesting, because I was really responding to him. And then I turned over here, and there was this woman with this baby, and I started having this encounter with her, and I couldn't tell if she was me and I was her. And then she said to me, "Are you an astrologer?" And I said, "Yes." And then she said, "You'll never understand ours." And then all of a sudden at once I realized I was in a different place, in a different land, in a different level of consciousness. And that was me, and he was my partner, and that baby was mine. And it was and of course I wouldn't understand their astrology. They were in a totally different system. This was them operating with me. And all of a sudden we all realized, oh, I wasn't supposed to be there. And I woke up and I was like, oh, I remember that. So yes, of course there's other planets, there's other galaxies, there's other universes. We're so myopic and we're so arrogant and we're so captured by our little ego. But there's a whole bunch of other realities that coexist, and you would know more than me. And I am very confident that the ability to bridge, that gift they gave me in that dream, reminded me without denial that there are places I'm in ecstasy and I'm not bound by this operating system.
And you believe, just out of just as an idea, that there is astrology in these other areas.
Well, she said it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't understand ours. Because imagine Earth is one of the planets they probably talk about crazy. They look at Earth and they go, this is the planet called crazy. You have it in Virgo. This is where we show up with crazy and emotional, crazy behaviors.
That's amazing.
That's what they're going to say about Earth.
Where can people find out more about you? Pick up your book, The Missing
It's
Element.
just 3 words.
Yes.
Debra, Debra Silverman Astrology, on Instagram and on TikTok and on, I'm old, but I'm young, as you can see. So I'm on Facebook and I'm on a website, and anywhere you want, just Google Debra Silverman. You're going to find out.
And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
Thank you. I want to say thank you to you that there's a gift of faith that gets rekindled when we see souls like you who keep reminding us of the next level. And that instead of us, I just want to say to everyone, I know that this place is so hard. I'm the first one to admit that. And if we, you and I and all of us can continually come home with our hand on our heart and pray and ask them for help, they're waiting. They're waiting for you to ask.
Debra, it has been such a pleasure and honor speaking to you today. I think this conversation is going to help a lot of people out there, and hopefully plant a lot of seeds.
You've really touched my heart today.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope we're planting a lot of seeds out there, and I appreciate you and everything you're doing to awaken this planet. So thank you so much.
Same. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.